Age kicked out of the Council, Humans Changed the Rules of the Galaxy is a gripping and expansive science fiction narrative that unravels humanity's rise in a galaxy once dominated by ancient and powerful species. The story begins with an event that shook the very foundation of galactic order. Humanity, a young and seemingly insignificant species from a backwater planet called Earth, was ejected from the prestigious Galactic Council. The Council, a conglomeration of the most advanced and influential species in the galaxy, had long been the bastion of galactic diplomacy and governance. It was a place where political and social power was exercised by races that had long since transcended the limitations of humanity, each one steeped in centuries or even millennia of cultural and technological progress. For humans, this moment of rejection was more than just a political snub. It was the catalyst that would spark a revolution in the galaxy's power structures. The reasons for their expulsion were manifold, but none of them made sense to the humans. They had brought something to the table that the Council had never anticipated: an indomitable spirit, a relentless will to survive, and a profound understanding of competition and cooperation in ways that the galaxy's more established species had never considered. Despite their rapid technological advancements, humanity was still seen as a newcomer, a primitive species that lacked the centuries of evolutionary refinement that the Council's other members had. The Council members saw humanity's presence as a challenge, something that threatened the delicate balance they had established among themselves. They had assumed that by denying humanity a voice, they could suppress the potential of the human race. Little did they know, this exclusion would ignite a force far more powerful than they ever imagined. The expulsion ignited something in humanity, a deep-rooted resolve to prove that they were far more than the sum of their parts. It was the catalyst for a dramatic shift in the galaxy's power dynamics. Rather than accept their fate, humans did what they had always done best: they adapted, they innovated, and they fought back. They began to understand the true power they possessed, not just in their technology but in their ability to form alliances, break old rules, and, most importantly, change the game. At the heart of this narrative are a series of characters: human pioneers, soldiers, diplomats, and scientists, each playing a pivotal role in altering the fate of the galaxy. Some of these individuals were part of the diplomatic delegation that had been sent to the Galactic Council, but others were ordinary citizens, scientists, and explorers who had no idea that they would soon become the champions of a galactic revolution. One of the central figures is Admiral Terrence Mallory, a seasoned military strategist whose intelligence and ruthlessness would become the key to humanity's success in the galaxy's power struggle. A brilliant tactician with a deep understanding of both human psychology and alien cultures, Mallory's rise to prominence would be one of the most surprising aspects of humanity's rapid ascent. Mallory, alongside a coalition of brilliant scientists and military leaders, began to devise a new strategy for dealing with the Council's oppression. Rather than taking the traditional route of trying to join the Council again, they sought to challenge its authority altogether. Their first move was the development of a new technology, something so advanced that it defied the very rules of galactic warfare. Humans, with their understanding of chaos and unpredictability, managed to develop weapons and defensive systems that the Council had no experience with, no countermeasure for. These technologies were based on principles that had been ignored or outright dismissed by other species, emphasizing mobility, unpredictability, and the use of unconventional tactics. Meanwhile, a group of visionary scientists led by Dr. Ava Sinclair were working on the next stage of humanity's rise. They discovered a new form of energy, one that allowed them to power ships and weapons far more efficiently than the galaxy's other species. This energy source also had the potential to enhance human cognitive abilities, opening up new avenues for exploration and innovation. The discovery was a game changer, and it sparked a new wave of interest in humanity's potential. It wasn't just about fighting back anymore. Humanity was now seen as a force of innovation, one that could reshape the galaxy in ways that had never been imagined. As humanity continued to push the boundaries of what was thought possible, the new alliance-based approach began to draw the attention of many species. While some were initially hesitant, others saw the potential in siding with humanity. Slowly but surely, humans began to build their own network of allies. These were species that had long been oppressed by the Galactic Council, or those that had been left out of the decision-making processes that controlled the galaxy. With humans offering them an opportunity for greater representation and influence, these species began to rally behind them. Humanity's political and military prowess grew exponentially. They began to conduct covert operations against the Galactic Council's strongholds, crippling their power from within. They didn't just rely on brute force, they used subterfuge, espionage, and psychological warfare to destabilize the Council's carefully constructed order. The humans understood that their strength lay not in their numbers, but in their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their opponents. They knew that while they were still a young species, their potential for growth was limitless. The first major turning point came when humanity, under the leadership of Admiral Mallory, launched a surprise attack against one of the Council's largest fleet bases. This was not a conventional military strike. Instead, it was an intricately planned operation that involved a combination of advanced technology, guerrilla tactics, and mind games. The attack crippled the Council's military might, sending shockwaves through the galactic political structure. For the first time, the Council realized that humans were not just another species to be overlooked, they were a force to be reckoned with. As the galaxy reeled from this unprecedented attack, humans began to establish their own coalition of planets and systems, the United Coalition of Humanity, UCH. The UCH quickly became a major player in galactic politics, advocating for the rights of all species to have a voice in the decisions that affected them. They rejected the outdated and hierarchical structure of the Galactic Council, instead pushing for a new system, one that was more democratic and fair to all races, not just the elite few. This new political ideology, championed by the UCH, began to gain traction across the galaxy. While the Galactic Council and its allies fought back, accusing humanity of being an upstart species that threatened the established order, the message resonated with more and more species. The idea that all races, regardless of their age or level of technological advancement, should have a say in the galaxy's future was revolutionary. For many, it was a message of hope and equality that they had long been denied by the oppressive rule of the Council. In the background of all this, a new threat began to emerge: an ancient race, the Vzal, who had been watching humanity's rise with growing interest. The Vzal were an enigmatic and terrifying species, ancient beyond measure, with a technological superiority that far outstripped anything humanity had developed. They had remained hidden for millennia, but now they saw humanity as a potential threat to their dominance. The Vzal saw the rise of humanity and the UCH as a direct challenge to their control of the galaxy. However, rather than confronting them head-on, they decided to observe and manipulate events from the shadows. As humanity's influence continued to grow, the Vzal began to weave their own complex webs of intrigue and sabotage. They planted agents among the UCH's allies, sowing discord and mistrust. They manipulated key figures within the UCH to push certain agendas and undermine humanity's progress. At the same time, they began to subtly influence the Galactic Council, offering promises of new alliances in exchange for cooperation in neutralizing humanity's growing power. Despite the Vzal's efforts to destabilize the galaxy, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. The people of the UCH, now united under the banner of change, continued to push forward, developing new alliances and expanding their technological capabilities. But they knew that they were far from invincible. Their enemies, both within the Galactic Council and outside it, were formidable, and the Vzal were an unknown and dangerous force. Humanity would need to adapt and grow even faster if they were to stand a chance against this ancient enemy. The conflict between humanity and the Vzal escalated into a full-scale war, one that would forever alter the fabric of the galaxy. As both sides pushed their respective technologies to the limit, the battlefields became increasingly complex and dangerous. Humanity's adaptability and ingenuity were put to the ultimate test, while the Vzal relied on their ancient knowledge and superior technology. This war would not only decide the fate of humanity, but the future of the entire galaxy. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but humanity had already changed the rules. What started as a simple rejection from the Galactic Council had spiraled into a revolution, one that would forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity, once an insignificant species, had proven that they could not only survive but thrive. And as they faced new and unknown challenges, they would continue to push the boundaries of what was possible, rewriting the rules of the galaxy in their own image. But even as the war against the Vzal raged on, humanity's greatest battle was yet to come: the fight for the soul of the galaxy itself. Would they continue to forge a new path, one of cooperation and equality, or would they become just another power-hungry empire, seeking dominance over others? The fate of the galaxy, and the future of humanity, hung in the balance. As the war with the Vzal continued to escalate, the galaxy found itself divided, not just by species, but by ideology. Humanity's rise had sparked a fire of rebellion that threatened the long-standing order of galactic governance. The Galactic Council, now desperate to maintain control, began to crack down on those sympathetic to humanity's cause, implementing more draconian measures to suppress any form of resistance. But as the Council became more oppressive, the cracks in their system deepened, and new opportunities for revolution opened up. The Vzal, who had always remained distant from the politics of the galaxy, had begun to reveal their true nature in the conflict. Ancient and powerful, they were not just a military force, but a people deeply connected to the very fabric of the universe. They had mastered not only advanced technology but also the manipulation of cosmic forces that humanity had only begun to understand. Their ships could phase through dimensions, their weapons could disrupt time itself, and their leaders seemed to possess knowledge that bordered on the mystical. They were not simply fighting for survival in this war, they were fighting to preserve a way of life that had existed since before the first stars were born. The UCH, now firmly entrenched in its mission to overhaul the galaxy's power structures, was forced to evolve rapidly in response to this existential threat. They had learned much from their initial military engagements, and their ingenuity was their greatest weapon. But they also recognized that to face the Vzal, they would need more than just weapons and tactics. They would need to understand the true nature of their enemies, to peer into the depths of their existence, and uncover the secrets that allowed the Vzal to wield such incomprehensible power. At the heart of this quest for understanding was Dr. Ava Sinclair, whose scientific prowess had been critical in humanity's technological advancements. After a harrowing encounter with a Vzal emissary, she had begun to uncover disturbing truths about their civilization. The Vzal were not merely an ancient race, they were part of a forgotten cosmic order, beings that had once shaped the galaxy in their image. But their dominance had not been unchallenged. Other, even older entities had once opposed them, and some believed that the Vzal's current efforts were part of a broader plan to return to their former glory. Sinclair's research revealed that the war was not just about power, it was a battle for the very control of the universe itself. Realizing that the Vzal had a deeper, almost metaphysical connection to the galaxy, Sinclair turned to uncharted territory, the creation of a new, advanced field of science that combined human innovation with the esoteric knowledge she had uncovered about the Vzal. She began developing a new form of energy, a bridge between quantum mechanics and the fundamental forces of existence. This new energy source would not only power human technology at an unprecedented level, but might also give humanity a fighting chance against the Vzal's overwhelming cosmic abilities. Meanwhile, Admiral Terrence Mallory continued to coordinate humanity's military strategy, but his role had shifted. He understood that conventional warfare would not be enough to defeat an enemy as ancient and powerful as the Vzal. As the conflict dragged on, Mallory sought out alliances with rogue factions, mercenaries, and even former enemies of the Galactic Council. The galaxy was full of untapped potential, and humanity's network of allies grew larger with every passing day. The UCH became more than just a coalition, it became a movement, a symbol of hope for every oppressed species, every outlier who had once been ignored or subjugated by the established powers. As the war reached a turning point, the true scope of the Vzal's manipulation began to emerge. It wasn't just the Galactic Council that they had been influencing, it was the very fabric of the galaxy itself. The Vzal had orchestrated key events throughout galactic history, subtly guiding the rise and fall of civilizations, playing factions against each other, and ensuring that no one force could ever rise to challenge their rule. They had been the unseen hand in the galaxy's political and cultural landscape for millennia. The Galactic Council was not their creation, but it was a tool they had long since co-opted, using it to maintain a semblance of order while they quietly prepared for the day when they would reclaim their supremacy. The revelation of the Vzal's true intentions shocked the galaxy. The UCH realized that they were not simply fighting a war for survival, they were fighting for the future of the entire galaxy, to prevent an ancient species from reshaping reality itself. But how could they fight an enemy that was not bound by the same rules as everyone else? How could they stand against a race that could manipulate space, time, and the very nature of existence? The answer came in the form of a daring plan, devised by Dr. Sinclair and a team of UCH scientists. The plan was nothing short of revolutionary. It would allow humanity to tap into the same forces that the Vzal had mastered, to harness the very fabric of the universe in a way that had never been done before. But this plan came with a risk. It could tear the galaxy apart. The device, known as the Singularity Engine, was designed to create a localized rupture in spacetime, allowing humanity to harness the infinite energy of a collapsing star or black hole. The Vzal had used similar technology for centuries, but humanity's version was more stable, more refined, and, most importantly, more unpredictable. The Singularity Engine could potentially level entire star systems in a single strike, but it also held the power to reshape the battlefield entirely, rendering the Vzal's cosmic advantage moot. The UCH's military leaders, led by Mallory, saw this as their best shot at victory. They would need to deploy the Singularity Engine at the heart of the Vzal's stronghold, a massive citadel hidden within the heart of a black hole. It was a suicide mission, but one that could end the war and finally break the Vzal's grip on the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was uncertain. Would the Singularity Engine work? Would humanity survive the aftermath of such a powerful force? These questions gnawed at Mallory and his team as they prepared for what could be the final battle. As the operation began, the galaxy held its breath. The UCH's fleet, backed by an army of allies, launched a coordinated assault on the Vzal's citadel. It was a brutal and desperate fight, with humanity's forces pushing forward in the face of overwhelming odds. But even as they pressed on, they knew that the real battle was not on the battlefield, it was in the heart of the Singularity Engine itself. The Vzal, sensing the impending threat, began their final counterattack. Their leaders unleashed their full cosmic power, manipulating time and space to devastating effect. But humanity, driven by their unyielding will and the belief that they were fighting for a better galaxy, pushed through the storm. As Mallory's forces breached the citadel, Dr. Sinclair initiated the activation sequence for the Singularity Engine. The device hummed with raw energy, the very essence of the universe contained within it. With a single command, she unleashed the power of the engine, creating a rift in spacetime so powerful that it began to unravel the Vzal's citadel. But as the rift expanded, something unexpected happened. The Singularity Engine didn't just tear through the Vzal's defenses, it began to warp reality itself, shifting the fundamental laws of the galaxy. Time fractured, and the galaxy's history started to rewrite itself. The Vzal's power was undone, their manipulation of the universe broken. The galaxy, once under their oppressive control, was free. Yet, the cost was immense. The war had ended, but the galaxy was left in chaos. New alliances would have to be forged, and the balance of power would need to be restored. Humanity had changed the rules of the galaxy, but in doing so, they had created a new universe, one where anything was possible. As the dust settled, humanity stood at the dawn of a new era, not as a mere participant in galactic affairs, but as its architect. But even in victory, the question remained, what kind of galaxy would they build? The future was uncertain, and new challenges lay ahead. The war with the Vzal may have ended, but the struggle for the soul of the galaxy was just beginning. Would humanity rise to the occasion, or would they become the very thing they fought against? The story of humanity's rise had only just begun. As the rift caused by the Singularity engine began to settle, the galaxy was left in a profound state of flux. The collapse of the Vzal's citadel sent shockwaves through the fabric of reality itself. The sheer energy released by the engine not only destroyed the Vzal's stronghold but also fractured the intricate web of power that had held the galaxy together for millennia. Time, space, and matter had become unstable in places, and entire systems had been torn apart, leaving massive voids where once there had been thriving civilizations. The universe was no longer governed by the same laws it once was. Humanity, now faced with the daunting task of rebuilding the galaxy, found itself at the center of this new, chaotic universe. The Vzal were no more, their civilization obliterated by the very technology they had once used to subjugate others. The threat they posed was no longer a concern, but the cost of victory had been high. Humanity had won, but what had they truly won? They had broken the chains that held the galaxy in place, but in doing so, they had unleashed a new era, one that was as uncertain and unpredictable as the Singularity engine itself. Admiral Mallory stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, gazing out into the vast expanse of space. The stars were still there, but they seemed distant, alien even. The galaxy no longer felt familiar, and the once steadfast alliances that had been forged through centuries of galactic diplomacy were now strained and uncertain. While some species saw the destruction of the Vzal as a triumph, others feared the chaos it had unleashed. The UCH had become the de facto leaders of the galaxy in the aftermath, but with the sudden collapse of the old order, there was no clear path forward. The Galactic Council, which had once been the pinnacle of intergalactic governance, had dissolved in the wake of the destruction. Many of its member species, unable to deal with the existential shock of the war's aftermath, withdrew into isolation. The very concept of centralized governance seemed obsolete now. Humanity's place in this new world was not one of unquestioned dominance, though. Instead, it was one of responsibility and uncertainty. There were questions that no one had answers for. Who would guide the galaxy toward peace? How would the various species who had once been dominated by the Vzal now find their place in this uncharted galaxy? How would the new energy unleashed by the Singularity engine impact the fabric of reality? Was it a force for good, or something far more dangerous? Dr. Ava Sinclair, who had become a central figure in humanity's rise, was now tasked with researching the new laws of the universe. The Singularity engine had not only altered the balance of power, it had changed the fundamental nature of the cosmos. Some areas of space had become perilous voids, where time itself seemed to warp in on itself. Others had become regions of intense energy, where the laws of physics were bent and twisted in ways that no species had ever anticipated. A new frontier of scientific exploration was now open, but it was fraught with danger. Sinclair had established a new division within the UCH to study these anomalies, and humanity's brightest minds had begun the task of uncovering the truth of what had happened to the universe. But while science worked to understand the new cosmos, Mallory and his team focused on the political landscape. The immediate threat of the Vzal was gone, but their legacy had left the galaxy fractured. Various factions began to vie for power, each with their own vision of what the future should look like. Some species, emboldened by humanity's victory, pushed for a more egalitarian system where all races would have an equal voice in the galaxy's future. Others, however, sought to capitalize on the power vacuum, eager to establish their own empires in the wake of the Council's dissolution. Among these factions was the Arcthean Empire, a once mighty force that had been reduced to a shell of its former self after the war with the Vzal. The Arctheans had always been an ambitious species, known for their ruthlessness in conquest and their highly advanced technology. With the collapse of the old order, the Arctheans saw an opportunity to rebuild their empire and impose their rule on the galaxy once again. They were not alone in their ambitions. Several other species, including the Eryxians, a race of bioengineered warriors, and the Lizith, a race of stealthy, enigmatic traders, began to position themselves as potential power brokers in the post-war galaxy. For Mallory, this emerging chaos was both a challenge and an opportunity. Humanity had the chance to steer the galaxy toward a better future, but only if it could maintain unity within the UCH and fend off those who sought to plunge the galaxy into an endless cycle of conflict. He knew that humanity's strength lay not just in its military might, but in its ability to inspire others. The UCH had to be more than just a new political entity. It had to be a symbol of hope, a guiding light in the darkness of the galaxy's uncertainty. The UCH began to push for a new form of governance, one that would reflect the values humanity had fought for. It wasn't about establishing a new empire, it was about creating a system where every species, regardless of its size or age, would have an equal say in the future of the galaxy. It was a radical idea, one that challenged centuries of tradition, but it was the only path forward if the galaxy was to avoid falling back into the same cycles of war and tyranny that had plagued it for eons. In the midst of this political struggle, an unexpected alliance began to form. Former enemies, who had once fought against humanity and each other, now found common ground in the face of the uncertain future. The Vzal's destruction had shown everyone that the galaxy could be torn apart in an instant, and that unity was the only way forward. Former members of the Galactic Council who had once rejected humanity now saw its potential to lead in this new era. As the UCH began to gain momentum, it formed a fragile coalition with species who had once been hostile to it, all united under the banner of rebuilding a more just and stable galaxy. Yet, there were still threats lurking in the shadows. The Vzal, though defeated, were not entirely gone. Their ancient network of agents, infiltrators, and sleeper cells still operated across the galaxy. These remnants of their civilization were intent on resurrecting their fallen empire, using whatever means necessary to return to power. As the UCH attempted to stabilize the galaxy, it became clear that the threat of the Vzal's legacy was far from over. Dr. Sinclair, along with a team of UCH researchers, began uncovering signs of a mysterious, hidden faction the Vzal Ascended who were working behind the scenes to resurrect their fallen empire. These radicals believed that the Vzal's destruction was only a temporary setback, and they sought to harness the very powers of the Singularity Engine to bring about a second coming of their species. They believed that the galaxy, in its fractured state, was ripe for their return. This new faction, a shadowy organization, was elusive, operating from the fringes of the galaxy where the laws of physics were weakest. The Vzal Ascended posed a dire threat to the stability of the galaxy. As Sinclair's research deepened, she uncovered disturbing clues about the true nature of their plans. They had begun experimenting with forbidden technologies, some of which were based on the very principles that had allowed the Vzal to manipulate space and time. If they succeeded, they could reverse the damage caused by the destruction of the Vzal's citadel and bring about a new, even more powerful Vzal dynasty, one that could eclipse the power they had once held. Humanity, along with its newfound allies, found itself once again on the front lines of a battle that transcended mere politics. This was no longer a struggle for power, it was a fight for the soul of the galaxy itself. If the Vzal Ascended succeeded, it would undo everything humanity had fought for. The very fabric of the universe could be rewritten once again, plunging the galaxy into a new age of darkness. The stage was set for a final confrontation, one that would decide the future of the galaxy. Would humanity, with its boundless potential and relentless spirit, be able to defeat this new threat? Or would the galaxy fall back into the hands of an ancient race that had once sought to control the very stars themselves? The war for the galaxy's future was far from over, and humanity would once again have to change the rules of the game if it hoped to survive.